Yes, am I audible to everyone?
Yeah, very much.
Good evening to each one of you on this great evening. And today, on this day, we have Mr. Chandrashekhar Moreshwar Tilak. He is the retired Chief Risk Officer and Executive Vice President of NSDL e-Governance Infrastructure Limited. And earlier, he was an Assistant Vice President of Indsec Share and Stockbroking Limited. He worked as a divisional chief investigation. He was the youngest, in fact, divisional chief investigation officer of Security and Exchange Board of India, SEBI, and also an officer with Stock Exchange Mumbai. So we hereby have invited Mr. Chandrashekhar Moreshwar Tilak on this eGrowth expert talks. And I request, sir, first of all, thank you very much for being here, and I request to take it forward and thank you very much. So can I request Amit to make Mr. Tilak host so that he can share his presentation?
Atul is going to do that. So
he's already the co-host.
I'm already the co-host.
Great. Thank you very much. Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Good evening to everybody. Really, it's my pleasure and honor to be in such an august company today evening. Right at the outset, let me express my sincere regrets that I was supposed to meet you all on May 4, but because of certain untoward instances in my neighborhood, I was not able to make it. And as you know, in these Corona days, neighbors are more important than your family relatives. And virtually was locked up over there at least up to 9 o'clock in the night, and that's why I could not make it. My sincere regrets for the same. I'm really happy as far as this particular opportunity is concerned. Before I start with my topic for the day, let me tell 2-3 things. First of all, I have not prepared any PowerPoint presentation kind of a scenario because I'm rarely do use it, and I'm not at all comfortable using it. And now, especially after I have retired, I have stopped using the PPTs completely. I used to do it when I was presenting something to my board as a chief compliance officer or a chief risk officer or a chief vigilance officer. But now I'm really tired of that, number one. Number two, basically I have purposely not made the PowerPoint PPTs today because I want to keep this as interactive as I can. And as you are even otherwise we have started using the chat boxes, whatever points you have to raise, because I'm really such an august company that you people are knowing much more. So I'm just feeling as if I'm giving my viva. Whatever it is after my LLM and post-graduation thereafter, I have really not done the viva. Let me try to do it. As the topic for the day is post-corona economy, what I'm planning to do is that basically I would be talking to you for say 45-50 minutes, and then we can have a open-end discussion. And even in meanwhile, when I'm talking to you, you are free to raise your points as far as using the chat boxes are concerned. And I will try to cover those in my deliberation to the extent possible. And there would be certain areas which I will not be aware at all. And I will be frank enough to tell you that I'm not really aware. As far as this post-corona economy is concerned, as we were discussing when this particular session was getting planned, that there are 2-3 different things which needed to be realized. That although we are talking about a post-corona economy on 18th of May 2021, one thing is very clear, that it is not only the effect of corona. As such, whether corona is a medical disaster or a political trigger, I'm not going into those particular discussions because it is not worth discussing it. Whatever it is a fait accompli of ours, and now we have to manage it the way we can. And certainly across the country, each and everyone is trying its level best. Leave aside the political skirmishes that makes newspaper headlines more rather than resolving the issues. And as far as this particular forum is concerned, which is more tilted towards industry and economics, I want to look at this particular topic more from an industrial or economy angle per se. As I have been introduced, you would have realized that I'm basically from a financial services. Although I started my career as a computer programmer with ICL UK way back in 1980, thereafter I shifted to finance and accounts. I was associated with ICM and Blue Star. Then I joined the Bombay Stock Exchange in 1988. I was the chief investigation officer at the BSc level as far as Harshad Mehta and Ketan Parekh episodes are concerned. And that gave me an opportunity to work with SEBI in 2 stints, before SEBI became a regulatory authority, and even after SEBI became a regulatory authority. And there are certain representatives who have worked with TRI and DOT. They would be happy to note this particular thing. Then I was heading their trading division for 2 years with a broking firm. I was heading their institutional as well as individual trade. The first ever international trade recorded on Bombay Stock Exchange platform. I was a party to it from our Indian side. And then from 1998, I was associated with the first ever and the largest depository of our country, that is NSDL, for first 10 years. I was with their depository division. And for last 12 years, I was national in charge for implementation of a national pension system, including Atal Pension Yojana and Swawalamban. Besides that, I have written more than 25 books, published more than 3,000 articles, and have delivered more than 3,600 lectures as far as economics, finance, and investment concerned. And since 1988, I have been associated as far as the central government budget analysis is concerned, and it is nearing some sort of a national record. That was just to put on record. And probably I will be drawing more from these experiences because my service of exposure has given me the opportunity to work from policy framing side as well as the implementation thereof side. As I have told you that considering these particular backgroundal experiences and expertise, when I look at post-corona economy, on one hand, it's at one point it seems really paradoxical, because if you see the economic indicators to great extent, they are either negative or they are neutral, and very few economic indicators are positive in nature, barring a monthly GST collection kind of a scenario. But if you look at indices of our country, BSE, Sensex or Nifty, virtually they are proving it to their name that neither they are sensible nor they are sexy. Even today, it has crossed, as far as BSE Sensex is concerned, a 50,000 level. Where from these particular factors are coming in is really baffling, even for a person like me who has been associated with Indian investment and Indian capital market scenario for last more than 32 years. One thing is very clear, that there is a certain shift and certain tilt as far as unconventional economies are concerned. And if you don't mind, I would like to concentrate on those points more. Because what I gather from my colleagues as well as from my experiences is that, and we have also witnessed it, that such points are not getting covered as far as media is concerned, whether it is electronic media, social media, or print media. Whether to expect media to cover such points or not is completely a different question altogether. But these 2-3 points taken together are forming as far as our current economic scenario is concerned. On one hand, basically, as I say, that our post-corona economy, because now almost we have completed a year. Last year on 12th of May, our Prime Minister announced Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, as well as he announced a complete lockdown of our country. And it was virtually on 12th of May, and we are meeting on 18th of May. That's why probably we are celebrating an anniversary of that. And then we are in a better position to analyze that. As all of us are quite aware, that although I do not want to indulge into many statistics churning per se, but let me say a few figures right at the outset, and then I would like to decipher them as far as my deliberations for the day are concerned. As all of us are quite aware, that as far as April to June quarter of 2020 is concerned, it was a disaster, and it was expected, because almost for 7 to 8 weeks, we were having a complete lockdown. And as all of you rather, are coming from an industrial background, you are very much aware what sort of a scenario was there. There was neither a movement of men nor a movement of material. So certainly those kinds of data churning is useless. But even then, it needs to be understood that our GDP growth rate at that point of time was minus 12%. Then in the next quarter, it reached to -6, then it was 0.3, and now it is somewhere 6. And now, although on 1st of February 2021, when Nirmala Sitharaman, our Honorable Finance Minister, presented the budget to our Parliament, she said that government is expecting to have a GDP growth rate of almost plus 12% as far as financial year 2021-2022 is concerned. Although that figure is debatable, many global as well as local rating agencies and financial institutions have predicted that India would have a GDP growth rate in the vicinity of 6 to 8%, if not more. Even if we are able to achieve that 6%, we are virtually talking about -6 to plus 6, so almost a 12 to 13% kind of a scene. Whether we are having those sufficient green shoots as far as our economy is concerned, that point I need to deliberate or intend to deliberate as far as this particular session is concerned. As I have retired now almost a year back on 31st of May 2020 on completion of 60 years of my age, now I did not have a disclaimer, especially when try person is attending this session, that these are my personal views, but that's what I personally believe even otherwise. That those types of green shoots are very clear. One thing is very clear that when we were introducing ourselves, we talked about telecommunication, we talked about data mining, we talked about data analytics. Since I retired almost for last 1 year or so, on every Sunday, I'm conducting some online training sessions as far as capital market and investment field is concerned. And since then, from June 2020, I have been predicting that this kind of a scenario would emerge. Because now one thing is very clear. It is not that each and every industry is bleak, but it is important how you are able to decipher it and how you are able to take it forward. Just to give an example, because let me start from IT sector, because all of you are quite aware that NSDL was a huge user or a very important user as far as the hardware, software, and telecommunications are concerned. Because if you have to run a data of 3 crores NPS holders and virtually receiving an entry of each and every account, and in addition to some 2 crore demat accounts, and then providing the services as far as the tax information network and others are concerned. TCS used to be one of our supplier because someone had just said it, so let me make a mention. And that's why we were really interested as far as those things are concerned. And as NSDL was basically a pioneering concept, and I being a chief risk officer and a chief compliance officer, I was associated with it each and every stage. And that's why I'm garnering those particular expertise and projecting this. Because if you see, as I said, one green shoot as far as our green economy or the current economy is concerned, is that for consecutive 7 months, our monthly GST collections have gone up. When it started rising in the month of September 2020 for the first time, it was quite natural. Because if you are having a complete lockdown for May, June, July, in that scenario, virtually whenever that particular economic cycle was picking up, the GST collection was to go up. And not only from September 2020 to almost now in May 2020 up to April 2021, we have seen that for consecutive 7 months, we have seen our monthly GST collections going up. You all industrialists would agree. To that extent, certainly our economic activity has not gone up. As far as the monthly GST collection of April 2021 is concerned, it is a record of 1.43 lakh crore of rupees, and it is the highest ever since the rollout of GST. And that's why a computer programmer in me and the investigation officer in me, my antenna went up, and I started finding out whether that particular economic activity has really picked up. If not anything else, at least this 10 to 12 years continuous existence as the national in charge for NPS had given me the access to the state governments right from the chief secretary level to various other levels. And they stated that yes, certainly the economic activity right from cottage industry to a large scale sector is picking up, but that is not the only reason. And then probably you might have also received some sort of notices. And those notices really give a clue where our IT sector is moving or is likely to move. As someone was saying before we started a formal session per se, that where the economy is headed or where the particular investment field is headed or where the particular industry is headed, that makes good sense. If you see that now if nothing else, basically the government agencies have started using the data which is available with them to a fullest extent. All of us are quite aware that for at least since 1995, each and every bank, each and every cooperative bank, stock exchanges, mutual fund, insurance industry, broking firms, depositories, were giving a data to the various departments of the central government as well as the state government. Very rarely it was getting used to a full extent. Now it is not a case. Government is really mining the data or analyzing the data in a fantastic sense. If you happen to be an income taxpayer, and certainly all of us are, we have started receiving the monthly messages from income tax department, hiding the first few digits of our PAN number and displaying only last 4 digits of our PAN number. If you see the subtle changes as far as the text of the message is concerned, that's where the data mining at data analytics as far as the government sector is concerned is moving into. Especially, you would have noticed that the text of an income tax message, SMS, which we receive every month, for the period April to December is quite unique. That under this particular PAN, so much of income tax has been collected. But if you see the message slightly containing that 160 capacity, which is otherwise allowed as far as the IT messages or the SMSs are concerned, they say that under this PAN, this particular PAN TDS has been already deducted. We expect this much to go up. That clearly shows that as our bank accounts have been tagged with PAN, as our bank accounts have been tagged with Aadhaar, now they are data mining. And it is happening in GST as well. I'm not aware, as all of you are the industrialists, how many of you have received such notices or not. But when I was discussing this with some of the Chamber of Commerce Ministry members at Mumbai as well as in Delhi, I was told that some of them have started receiving a notice. Just to give an example, that if I'm Chandrashekhar Tilak filing the income tax return, why to take an example of someone else? I have not received, but just for sake of example, I'm saying that if I had filed income tax return last year, say up to somewhere in July, August kind of a scenario, under such circumstances, they are telling me. The Chandrashekhar Tilak, we have seen your Form 16 as well as ITR for last 3-4 years. It has shown a consistent trend as far as your personal income level is concerned. Congratulations for the same. But we realize from your IT papers that you are heading a particular unit. And if we try to correlate an increase in your income with increase of the volumes you reported as a businessman, they are not correlated. They are not in a sync. Under such circumstances, willy-nilly, I have to file my revised GST return or revised business volume kind of a scenario. Is it this kind of a business analytics, whether this kind of a data mining is getting generated as far as the IT sector is concerned? When I realized this, when we're in the month of August, September, that this is happening this way, I started telling the people who were attending my investment training classes that, boss, if you are concentrating on IT sector shares to be purchased and bought, then instead of buying the Infosys and Wipro, why not to buy the share of a persistent system or Tech Mahindra or a TCS? And you would have seen that these three companies' share prices have gone up more compared to the share prices of Infosys and Wipro. This is some sort of applied finance or applied technology kind of a scenario. What it clearly indicates, that right at the outset why I took this particular example is, we have seen a classical divergent view as far as this particular industry of IT sector is concerned. You would have seen from the same company, there is an example of a Majesco. If you don't mind, I will keep on interrelating the share prices and other things, because that makes a real clear picture. And as I am having a crowd attendees coming from the various backgrounds, probably these two would be the meeting grounds as far as that particular sector is concerned, because I do not want to conduct a pure economic theory class over here, because there are two senior people attending this particular August House. They would realize that from the same IT sector, there is a company called Majesco, who paid me 971 rupees dividend per share when the share prices were 990. But one of the reasons why they said is that they are diving out or shelving out their entire cash reserve because they are closing the business. The kind of business which they were garnering from US, the kind of business which they were garnering from Europe, they foresee that this kind of a business would not be forthcoming, and it may not be worthwhile to continue in the same vein. Under such circumstances, they said that we are driving out or shelving out our entire cash reserve. And you would have realized now that particular share price is virtually on a trade-to-trade basis. Number one, because there are very low volumes. And number two, that company has already started a winding up petition or a winding up process as far as their Indian operations are concerned. Probably this kind of a scenario where instead of concentrating on some sort of a outgarnering of a business or the outsourcing of a business, if my industry or IT sector is really dependent fully on that, then probably some sort of a Atmanirbhar or self-reliant would be there. There are 2, 3 participants who are attending this particular session from America. They would agree with me that India is not the only country who has said this in those so many words. But without saying or with saying, many countries of the world are saying or are divulging or as far as their own economic activities are concerned. Each and every country is virtually rethinking as far as their outsourcing policies and practices are concerned. And especially when Indian IT sector industry was dependent more on such kind of outsourcing, probably it has to undergo some sort of a complete restructuring or a reshuffling. Probably the companies who have really initiated this process right at the beginning in somewhere in the month of April or May, sensing this kind of a international or a global realignment in one sense, not necessarily in the nature of a trade bloc, but in the nature of a national and industrial priorities, probably they have survived. And as we are, all of us are very much dependent on IT, I started my session there into. I say whenever I'm conducting the lectures for many management institutes across the country, I jokingly tell them that when I started my career as a programmer in ICL UK, in Indian context, although I was based in India for a majority of the time, basically at that point of time, IT was looked after as a system support. And nowadays, business operations are being run in order to contain the volume capacity as far as the systems are concerned. Just see if that particular system was not available with us today, we would not have been able to meet online. And if that technology is removing those geographical barrier, virtually they are creating another kind of a geographical barrier as far as the IT sector is concerned. So that is quite a paradox. And that's why I said this particular economic scenario, especially in a post-COVID era, is quite paradoxical in nature. It is not that only this kind of data mining is happening over here, but another quite important feature or the salient feature of a post-corona economics is concerned or a post-corona economy is concerned is that we have to consider although whenever any industrial decision is taken at an entrepreneur level, he is supposed to do a SWOT analysis and he does it. I'm not saying it is not being done. Many of the business consultants or the business helping hand people are attending this particular session. They would agree with me that especially after April 2020, nowadays people are more worried as far as the unintended effect of any policy decisions are concerned. And this is a quite peculiar feature as far as the post-corona economy is concerned. Of course, there are positive sides as well as the negative sides to it. I don't deny that. But let us continue with this particular example. And you would agree with me that I will give one classic example. What sort of unintended effects are there? Majority of my examples would be from financial services because after all, I have spent more than 3.5 decades as far as the financial services are concerned, whether it is accounting, whether it is industrial finance, whether it is stock exchange, whether it is regulations, or whether it is depository merchant banking and a product implementation of a financial services. And after all, these financial services across the globe have undergone a tremendous change. And there are basically positive as well as a negative side thereof. Just take a classic example. You would realize that in the month of April 2020, Reserve Bank of India, suo moto, a central bank of our country, suo moto gave some sort of a moratorium as far as the repayment of the industrial loans and the interest thereon is concerned. The intention behind such RBI policy, although they have said suo moto, all of us would agree that such decisions are very rarely taken without discussing the same with the central government at that point of time. Certainly, there would not be any formal communication, or there may be some formal communication. But after all, the Reserve Bank of India announced it in the month of April 2020 that such kind of a moratorium would be given. Just mark the word, it is a moratorium. It was an extension or a postponement as far as the due dates of the industrial finance and installments were concerned. It was not a complete loan waiver. The agriculture loan waiver was in vogue, was in discussion, but industrial loan waiver was not. So the liability still stood as far as the balance sheets were concerned. Only the income flow was getting adjusted. And the intention behind such kind of a scenario, as far as Reserve Bank was concerned, was very clear. that they said, as we discussed in the first point, that as the complete movement of man and material was getting blocked into, then they said that whatever little liquidity the industrial houses were having there into, instead of wasting or expending that liquidity on repayment of loan and installment, it would be much better for a national economy if it is spent on purchase of a raw material or a supply of a finished product or the payment of salaries and wages to the workers. So that would increase the internal liquidity as far as the national economy was concerned. That was a good intention thereof. But you would have realized that it had a complete unintended, but a fantastic, it has to be taken into consideration. In that sense, I'm using that word, that there was a huge negative impact as far as the mutual fund industry in general, but a liquid mutual fund industry in particular is concerned. All of us can easily recollect over here that Franklin Templeton Fund, Suo announced a closure before the maturity of those schemes as far as their 6 date or liquid schemes were concerned. We have to note it over here that such a closure was not forced by this regulator, that is the SEBI. Such a closure was not forced by some sort of a mishap or a mismanagement at the end of Franklin Templeton. No, they were very clear that as basically those liquid funds they have closed down. They have not closed down their high equity or a focused equity or a blue chip or a hybrid kind of a scenario. But they said that as the majority of the funds, to be precise, 85 to 90% of the investable surplus of each and every liquid fund basically gets invested into the government securities, commercial papers, unlisted bonds, kind of a scenario. And if this repayment gets postponed under such circumstances, the easy and liquid redemption, which is a sine qua non as far as the liquid mutual fund, was at its stake. And they said it would be just not possible. And as the scenario folded, this June moratorium got extended to July and then subsequently up to 31st of August. And you would realize that because of this, the Franklin Templeton's decision withstood the test. And now they are able to repay that entire sum. That money has not gone away as far as the investors are concerned, but that opportunity has gone away. And especially during that particular phase of April to August, the international flows which were coming to the country, because at that point of time, if you recollect, Reliance Jio was able to raise more than 5,800 crore rupees in a span of 7 days. And all of you who are industrial entrepreneurs over here would agree that whenever such FPIs, whenever such FDIs come, first they get parked into the liquid schemes. But during that particular phase, not only the liquid schemes of the Franklin Templeton Mutual Fund, but the liquid schemes of each and every mutual fund of our country was on the radar of SEBI. My tribe friend would agree with me that whenever, for right reason or the wrong reason, anything is on a radar, people or the participants of that particular field always try to shy away thereof. Under such circumstances, parking of such funds became a huge problem. And since then, the equity market has got a fillip. And as an industrialist or as an industrial organization or a forum which I'm addressing at this point of time, the major important feature of any post-corona economy would be that henceforth, the industrial houses, whatever may be the scale and nature of operation, would be dependent more as far as parking of their funds are concerned. Their first priority may be, I'm using the word maybe, and English grammar tells me that may includes may not, maybe such kind of equity stocks which give you sufficient price band, at the same time sufficient consistent trading volume. And you would have seen, probably this is the one reason of a post-corona economy, why we have seen that in 2020 calendar year, although we term it as being washed out by the corona, in the same calendar year 2020, more than 35,000 crores were raised from the primary market. And probably this kind of interfueling between a primary market of IPO, FPO, instead of getting converted into a debt securities or interest-related securities, they are coming properly to the equity markets. Probably that might have prompted the Central Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman to say in her budget that we are trying to have a social stock exchange. I will not be surprised. I will not be surprised because there is a mention to some extent that if government comes out and they speedily implement the idea for a separate stock exchange as far as a separate system as far as the cottage industry, small scale industries or medium scale industries are concerned. The industrial veterans would agree with me that we have seen such experience or experiment in our country in early 90s in the nature of OTC, over the counter exchange of India. Over a period of time, unfortunately, that particular idea didn't pick up because there were some not sufficient liquid stocks or the floating stocks as far as those companies are concerned. But the scenario in 1990s and scenario is in 2020 is certainly different. We have seen that more than 63 lakh trading cum demat accounts have been opened in a single year. I have been associated with capital markets since 28th of June 1988. I have seen the passage from floor-based trading to the screen-based trading at BSE as well as NSC. I have seen the passage from settlement of stock exchanges in a share certificate format to a completely demat form because I was the person who was marketing as far as the demat and depositories were concerned. And let me see from 1988 to 2020 to 2019 to be precise, maximum number of demat accounts, both the depositories taken together, NSDL and CDSL of our country was 42,000. But in 2020, it was 63 lakhs. So 42 lakhs to 63 lakhs is really a huge jump. Under such circumstances, you would realize that if this particular exchange crops up, then certainly such groups can form a scenarios wherein the instead of having another kind of a venture capital, which would be more in the nature of international exchanges, international technologies as well, would be a sine qua non. And over here, if you are able to align as far as non-China groups are concerned, this particular word is gaining ground as far as post-corona economy is concerned, then certainly those industries are quite right. And if you see, I have seen this, I feel or I can anticipate that this kind of activity would not be restricted only to financial services because financial services has already seen this kind of activity. Joe Biden as American president has announced yesterday only, and we have seen it in today's newspapers, that now they would be supplying a Covaxin to the entire thing. Probably that would be an entry point as far as other areas are concerned. I can foresee that some sort of American mutual funds and other things are having a direct entry into our country. I'm predicting it or I'm anticipating it because you would have seen that not only the primary market picked up in 2020, not only the public issues picked up in January, February, March, but you would have seen that new fund offers or NFOs of a mutual fund have also picked up. And my industrial experience of a financial services tell me that it is a quite unique, and this is really a post-corona economy. If you take the example of a single month of April 2020, April 2021, that is the last month, you would have realized that 8 mutual funds had 12 NFOs as far as our country is concerned. And out of those 12 NFOs, 3 are getting listed at New York Stock Exchange. Basically, they are trading into the activities as far as NYSE traded stocks and equities are concerned. Probably this is one kind of example where resources can be raised internationally as well as locally, provided your industrial interests and your national interests are aligned. This is going to be a unique feature as far as the post-corona economy is concerned. This is not only restricted to the financial services, this is also encompassed as far as the automobile industry is concerned. As basically my organizers for the day are Aurangabad based, I must touch upon this particular sector because I am very much aware how close the automobile sector is to the Aurangabadkars. I can't deny that. If you would have seen yesterday's Tata Motors result, they are quite unique. If you see the consolidated loss, consolidated accounts of Tata Motors, that is JLR and Tata Motors Indian industry taken together, they are into the loss of 7,660 crores. But if you see the standalone profits, as far as the Tata Motors industrial or domestic results are concerned, they are in loss as far as the consolidated is concerned in 7,600 crores, because they have written off. This reason is quite important. They have written off the entire debt as far as the JLR is concerned. All of you are quite industrial experts than me. I'm completely a serviceman. Throughout my life, I was servicing with someone. I was in service with someone. But you would realize that at that point of time, any industrial house or industrialist takes a chance or an action of entirely writing off a particular debt when it's assured of that particular market. Under such circumstances, this kind of a scenario is going to be quite unique. One thing could be that the same thing may get repeated as far as the Tata Steel results are concerned, because all of us are quite aware that chorus is a drag as far as the Tata Steel results are concerned. And the speed at which and the quantum at which, rightly or wrongly, our industrial activity is picking up a demand for steel, demand for cement, demand for road, demand for infrastructure is going to pick up. And if this trend continues, right, it would be true not only for the big houses like Tata, but it would be very much aware as far as the other industrial ancillaries are concerned. And as far as the automobile sector is concerned, it is quite unique as far as this particular post-corona economy is concerned. Because on one hand, it is going to have some sort of exposure as far as the government sector is concerned. You would have seen, again to go back my pattern, if you would have seen, even within the automobile sector, each and every company having some sort of a unique thing. So unless and until we are able to have this kind of a niche area, as far as our areas and our focuses are concerned, probably we will be missing the bus. Just have a look at the thing. You would realize that companies which were laggards as far as last few years were concerned, like Tata Motors, to some extent Bharat Forge, virtually it was not that something has gone wrong as far as the production techniques were concerned, but those were not getting realigned. But when in Atmanirbhar on 12th of May, our Prime Minister made a mention thereof, and from 13th of May to 17th of May, Honorable Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman and Honorable Minister of State for Finance Anurag Singh Thakur conducted the press conferences on 5 consecutive days for not less than 90 minutes every day. They made a major announcement as far as the defense industry is concerned. And they said, henceforth, in next 5 years, at least 70% of the production related to defense would be procured, either produced in our country or would be procured from local vendors and not from the global vendors. And you would have seen, since then, the share prices of Tata Motors, share prices of Bharat Forge, share prices of Ashok Leyland had started moving, inching upwards. It is because they are supplying these things. You would have read into yesterday's newspapers how that particular local tender for first more than 200 crore as far as the 17 different items were concerned is happening. Probably these things of a defense production would be the another nature of a post-corona economy. If you are in the, because you are aware, now DRDO is not restricting itself as far as only the defense researchers are concerned. Now DRDO is in the news for a completely different matter as far as the co-vaccines are concerned. And that would be a complete new industry as far as the post-corona is concerned. Over here, if you see that I foresee a scenario where defense may get aligned not only with the arms and ammunition or the production thereof, but it may get aligned as far as my international and local businesses are concerned. And probably when I'm discussing this point on the forum of an industrialist, it need to be mentioned. I'm going to say some sort of a positive things only because probably these points are not getting discussed. And I got this opportunity to put forth my views in this August house. If I'm going wrong, I will be more than happy if you can pinpoint it. Because these are the new business opportunities. Until now, Very few people at a slower level, at a smaller level are getting into. Henceforth, I'm very sure whether it is automobile, whether it is financial services, some sort of an internal outsourcing is going to happen. But one major portion which we have to look into as far as the post-corona economy is concerned is that on one hand, we are saying that travel, tourism industry has been badly hit. Certainly, it has been badly hit. No one can deny it. No one can deny it. And there is every likelihood that as far as this industry of travel and tourism is concerned, whether it is locally or globally, is not going to see the pre-corona stage at least for next 1 year or so. When I said this particular thing in one of our premier management institute of our country hardly yesterday, one of the professor quipped that probably I am too optimist. But whatever it is, certainly we are going to see that particular pre-corona stage as far as this industry is concerned in a completely different manner. But if you see the other side thereof, that travel and tourism may not work, but logistic would be the biggest industry as far as the booming period is concerned, as far as the post-corona economy is concerned. Whenever I talk about logistic or whenever I think about logistic, I'm reminded of one thing. Many of you might have read that book by J.R.D. Tata, Beyond the Blue Mountain. In that book, J.R.D. Tata has been quoted saying that if you are carrying a passenger, he can be delayed, but he can't be lost. But if you are carrying a cargo, he can be lost, but he can't be delayed. And we have seen in last 1 year of Corona that both the things have been derailed. So that clearly shows what kind of a potential we have as far as the logistics are concerned. We have seen how badly we have managed our logistics. It has been a stark focus as far as the distribution of vaccines are concerned. It is in stark focus as far as the medicines and pharmaceuticals are concerned. But many of us who are 28 or 29 participants as far as this meeting is concerned, some of you, especially who are staying in India, well, some of us might have foregone have undergone, not foregone, have undergone that corona experience. We have seen that when the government was insisting to take allopathic examples and allopathic help for curing thereof, the few medicines which were made use of, especially in the nature of Fabiflu and Ginkgovit, very rarely a person has got an entire quota in one go. It was not that the pharmaceutical companies were not able to produce it, but it was that they were not able to distribute it correctly. Especially if you see the tablet of a Fabiflu, you would realize that a single person was supposed to have a 9 tablet on a first day and 4 tablets every day for next 1 month. That means he was to consume 130 tablets. Very rarely he has got a 13 strips altogether. It was not a sudden jump as far as the demand is concerned, but it was equally inadequate distribution. Same was true for the Ginkgovit and other things. We have seen what sort of a scenario is unfolding as far as the Covishield and Covaxins are concerned. We have seen how the Glenmark failed as far as their announcements are concerned. We have seen what sort of a politics is being played as far as the supply from Pfizer is concerned. And we have seen how the DRDO is encashing that particular activity. Over here, the role of logistics do come into play. And if you see, whosoever was having a good logistic pattern, they have survived as far as the post-corona economy is concerned. So whether I'm a small-scale entrepreneur, whether I'm a medium-scale entrepreneur, whether I'm a large-scale entrepreneur, unless and until I'm able to concentrate on my logistics, probably I would not be able to sustain as far as this post-corona economy forces and undercurrents are concerned. It is true, not only locally, but it is true internationally as well. And you would have seen, it is true for defense, it is true for automobile, it is true for everything. Another example of the point which I would like to raise as far as the post-corona economy is concerned is the integration as far as these various forms and formats and scales of business organizations are concerned. And a classic example thereof would be the recently announced scrap policy as far as the automobile sector is concerned. If you recollect, Nitin Gadkari, Honorable Central Minister for Roads and Transport, and a very fantastic man as far as the implementational processes are concerned. I'm not a brand ambassador as far as, or a campaign in charge as far as the Nitin Gadkari is concerned, but at least that man gives you a result. And from that angle, I'm saying he was airing this view since January 2021. And on 1st of February 2021, that budget said that now government is going to implement a car scrap policy. If that particular personal vehicle was in registered 20 years ago, then it has to go. If a commercial vehicle was registered 15 years ago, it has to go. As I said earlier, that I have been analyzing the budget since 1988, and very rarely I have seen a follow-up action. Our intentions are quite good, but our implementation always leaves much to be desired. But over here, on 1st of February, this announcement was made in a budget. And on 3rd of February, Nitin Gadkari announced the 25 centers where these particular vehicles would be there. If you don't mind, I would like to go into these details, and then you can extrapolate to the various areas with which you are interested thereinto, because that clearly shows how this particular economy is going to integrate, especially the post-corona economy is going to integrate at various levels besides the proprietorship patterns are concerned. You would realize that this particular process is going on, and I am told that by end of June, virtually they would be announcing these centers as each and every district head to be a kind of a center. If you look at it, the set of activities which are involved in this single policy decision, because government might have announced, but it has to be implemented by us. Whether we have this kind of opportunity, and if I'm able to catch it before anyone enters into it, or many, if not any, at least many enters into it, probably that would be the area. Because if I have to grow my business, someone said that it is the name in the title of this of my organizer, and that's why I have taking it as a last point. Because this is how the post-corona economy at a local level and at a global level is emerging into. Let us imagine that if you look at it, there are 7 different stages. That first I have to take my vehicle, if it is meeting those requirements, any of those requirements for a commercial or a personal vehicle, to that particular collection center. Activity 1. The technical evaluation of that vehicle, activity 2. Commercial evaluation of that vehicle, activity 3. Then completing a financial transaction and a legal documentation of handing over, activity 4. Then taking out that particular payment thereof as far as the commercial consideration to the owner is concerned, subset of that particular activity. Taking away that portion which is not at all useful and taking it into the scrap, another activity. Making use of usable thing and converting it into a spare part and then supplying it as the auto ancillary to the automobile, whether it is a 2-wheeler or 4-wheeler, whatever that, depending on the spare parts availability, separate activity. And then coming out with a new vehicle altogether would be another activity. And in the intermittent period, you would always have some sort of a financing involvement too. At each and every set of activity, it is a combination of a skilled as well as unskilled labor. At each and every set of activity, it is a combination of organized and unorganized sector. So right from the beginning till end, you just see the imagination. How I sensed it, I will tell you. It is not that I am coming from at all, not at all, not at all. I am a postgraduate in law and commerce. I have no exposure to the industrial activity since 1988. But I was looking at it, this particular announcement completely from the viewpoint of the share prices of the industrial sector, which would go up. This is one area where those logistics things were concerned. You would appreciate that Maruti is in a better logistic position than Tata Motors. Whosoever is buying a car in a personal vehicle would agree with me. From whom we take the car loans? Because when on 1st of February this was announced, I had told in my coaching classes or a training programs that if that particular point, from this particular provisions point, if I have to buy a share, I will buy the shares of a bank, of Axis Bank or IndusInd Bank or a contract bank. One of my participants asked, why not SBI or HDFC? I said SBI and HDFC would grow for a different reason, not for this reason. Because as far as the car loans are concerned, banks like Axis, banks like IndusInd, banks like Kotak mark a business. And you would appreciate and agree that the share prices of these banks, as far as this segment is concerned, has gone up. From there, I am extrapolating it to this. Whether it is true for space research, whether it is true for food processing industry, whether it is true for electricity and electrification, whether it is true for toll collection, just imagine. This is what a post-corona economy is. I'm so hopeful that it may not remain only in the vicinity of these particular sectors. I'm foreseeing that as we did it in 2000 to 2010, that Coimbatore-like cities became the capital as far as the medical transcriptions are concerned. I foresee the ISRO and other financial services and banking would become a forte as far as Indian trades are concerned. And especially those kinds of business opportunities would sell. Because if you see in a post-corona economy, rightly or wrongly, because it's a debatable point, but that's how the government policy has been stated now. And if government stays true as far as their course is concerned, then probably various government sector companies are available as far as the ownership stakes are concerned. If your platform is able to stake some claim like that, because this is for the first time, that is the push or the pull of whatever word you want to use as far as the corona is concerned on the economy, that as far as this year's budget is concerned, government has said that they are having a disinvestment target of more than 2.10 lakh crores. And for the first time, all the types of disinvestment, that is complete sellout, strategic sellout, and the partial sellout has been announced. So in one hand or the other, we are going to have it. As on date, there are more than 1,100 public sector enterprises at central government exposures. You have to believe my figure because I have implemented my NPS in at least 800 companies out of that before I retired last year. If you consider the state governments and union territories, there are more than 22,000 such state autonomous bodies. Again, you have to believe me because before I retire, I have implemented NPS in at least more than 3,000 companies thereof. And now government is on record saying that they have bifurcated the industrial sector into core and non-core. If it is hold good for central, it would have to hold good for the state government. So in core sector, at max only 4 government companies would be there, and if already more than 4 government companies are operational, either they would get merged or they would get sold out. Just see the opportunity. And if we extrapolate it to those 22,000, because in non-core, no government company is going to be there. Certainly, as a financer, I'm having opportunity. As an industrialist, I'm having opportunity. And in logistics, I'm going to have an opportunity. To sum up in one way, because I'm already overshooting a time, I'm very much aware that you would agree that I'm reminded of one classic WhatsApp messages which is floating around. We generally relate a name of an industrial Indian oil company with a business of oil. But now they have given an advertisement and which is really getting viral on the social media that Indian first, oil later. At this juncture, I'm moving into oxygen cylinders. We have seen how the companies like Reliance at Jamnagar, how the companies like Adani, how various NGOs who are establishing the Covishield field. That is the post-corona economy. Opportunity is there, whether I am able to encash it. Under such circumstances, the logistics, and logistic not only by way of a transport, but by way of a services, by way of a skill, and by way of a technology would be the sine qua non as far as the post-corona economy is concerned. As I was supposed to speak for a few minutes, I have shortlisted various points that can be extrapolated in one sense, and in other sense, probably it is just a beginner or a primer as far as this particular point is concerned. I'm really thankful to the organizers as well as to all of you for giving me such wonderful opportunity to present my views. You have every right to differ and debate on that, because being a Geminian and married for last 35 years and being associated with capital market for more than 30 years, certainly I'm more prone to have a debate or a discussion. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tilak, for your such a great insight about the overall economy. I request all the participants to raise their hand in a system. If you have any queries, you can go to reactions. They will find raise hand, and you can raise so that I can take questions one by one. Mr. Anant, not in the system. You have to go into the raise hands so that I can take it one by one. So can I request you to please raise your hand in Mr. Acharya, please. Okay, you are the first. Okay, I'll give you this privilege. You may shoot your question. Yeah, Mr. Acharya, unmute yourself and ask your question to Mr. Tilak.
Sir, you have said that the Tata company has made a loss of 4,700 crores, and that is because of the writing off.
Yes.
Is it total because of the writing off? There are any other reasons also.
I was expecting this particular question. Let me be very honest. I said mainly because of that write-off. The basic reason is twofold. If you see the result, whatever has been made public so far, because the entire details have to come out, they have said that as far as their consolidated business, that is JLR plus local business is concerned, they are in loss of 7,000 crore. But if you consider standalone result of only Indian operations, they are in profit. They have cited two reasons as far as the consolidated losses are concerned. Point number one, complete write-off as far as the local as well as the international debt on JLR is concerned. And second is because of some sort of a depreciation rules as far as the EU is concerned. And certainly the JLR business is going down, and that clearly shows that henceforth they would be continuing with the JLR technology, but would be concentrating more on a local industry.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure.
So, anyone else, if you have any queries, please raise your hand in a system. Okay, I'll give again one, Mr. Zaid. You may ask the question. Please go ahead. And may I request everyone, before you start, may I request everyone to raise your hand in a system, so it helps me.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Going to reaction, and in reaction, you have an opportunity to raise your hand in the system. So I can see a flag. I can see your raised hand in the system. Yeah. So please do that. Yes, Mr. Zaid, please go ahead.
Good evening. Am I audible, sirs?
Yeah, very much.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Tilak. It was a very good insight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I am from the manufacturing line and I make apparel, both summer and winter wear.
Okay.
It's been a very positive disruption in a way, which sees a lot of different insights into a very widespread hope for mass market apparel possibility of sale, and which people like me would love to capitalize. And that is an opportunity which I see from the disruption, apart from the calamity.
Exactly. I fully agree with you.
The second point, which I really appreciate what you have made, is from the kind of statistics. Coming to the fact that NSDL collects a lot of statistics. I get emails from NSDL correlating a lot of data. For example, I subscribe to a new insurance policy.
Mr. Zair, you're not audible. May I request you? You can switch off your video and then you may talk. That's okay.
Is it better now? I have moved.
Yeah. It is much better. Much better.
I just moved my telephone away, which was causing the disruption. I think now it should be clear. So, we're talking of NSDL. I get, when I subscribe to an insurance policy, for example, or when I make bank transactions at the end of the financial year, I get statistics against my username to clarify if all the record maintained by NSDL is right. So the kind of statistics maintained by the government is really appreciable. The kind of follow-up that is made as far as returns filed by GST, income tax, refunds of income tax, tax deducted at source, filing of all kinds of returns as on date is really appreciable. The refunds of income tax is also very prompt. I really appreciate the government because I've just got my income tax refund of last year.
I was going to say that. Ask that rather.
I also very good. I promptly get reminders for advance income tax. I also get reminders.
Always.
I also get comparative reminders of the quantum of difference in the remittance of taxes.
Yes, that's what the point I was making.
So I really appreciate the statistics maintained and the details of statistics maintained by the government, which is really I also like to point out the kind of verification that the government is making. The GSTR1 verification now is made by the Income Tax Department,
Correct.
which we have also uploaded onto the site, and we are up to date on that. Running the business, I get all these notices directly to my email address and on my phone. So I keep them up to date. So I really appreciate the government's move, and I also appreciate statistics. So I do agree that the economy is going up really well. And it's important for a lot of people in the industry to believe that, yes, India is a growing economy. It's difficult for a lot of people in the industry to fathom the number. 1,40,000 crores of collection is a very large number. But yes, there is a huge opportunity in India. We have a billion population, and the industry that I come from, yes, we do see a huge opportunity even today. So I'll have to actually thank you a lot for the inspiration and for the statistics and for the guidance this evening.
Zahir, if you don't mind, I will just elaborate on one of these points. Because thank you very much. I will certainly convey your appreciation to my ex-colleagues, because now I am retired from NSDL, but certainly it is a PAT. And it's a combination of a private-public partnership kind of a scenario, because NSDL per se is not a government company, although we run various government projects. But this kind of opportunity is available at this juncture only in services. But in a post-corona economy, that may be available even at an industrial activity. Point number one. Point number two, another factor where a post-corona economy is there, as you are in from apparels, you said, you would agree with me, or rather you would be able to give me a better input there into. One thing has changed as far as the post-corona economy is concerned, and it is going to be permanent, or if not permanent, at least comparatively long-lasting thing. That work from home, this kind of a concept, as far as the Indian economy is concerned, is going to be a game changer completely. And probably that was one of the reason. It has just, I would start from financial services and then come to your industry, and would like to extrapolate it to the other industries. See, one of the reason why these 63 lakh accounts got opened, because being a CCO, CRO, CVO for so many years, your old habits die hard. Although I retired in May 20, as soon as this number started going up, my antenna went up, because I have seen that Panchal scam. Then NSDL got scot-free because our records were quite good and KYC was not at fault. But then I realized that one of the reasons was when we used to be working in the offices at any level, barring the exception of a watchman and a chairman, because these are the only two persons who can decide when they can go out of the office. No one of us have that choice. And once you enter the office, all these financial services sites like stock exchange sites and others were blocked because of the IT security reason. Now from work from home capacity, when I'm plugging in from my home, probably I'm using a local network. So now office can't restrict my thing. But it is one impact. But you would realize it has resulted into a change of place of consumption, another requirement for logistics. It has changed my entire apparel habits. When I was to be in office, I have to be informal. Now, at least if my shirt is formal, that is sufficient. Now, instead of having a formal pant, I can go into the Bermuda as well. But that shows a change of consumption place, not only in the apparels, but it is in food, it is in apparel, it is in services, it is in a network. You would not realize, but one of the reason of this work from home, that my real estate prices, especially of the commercial properties, have gone down drastically because there is no demand at all. Point number 4, and over here again, the logistics come into play. And especially now, as these hotels, these malls, these departmental stores are closed for security reasons or the corona reasons, now people have started making use of various other things. And that's why I'm not surprised that if Amazon, Flipkart, or Swiggy or Zomato comes with a public issue, it is forming our things to come. Thank you very much for your point.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. We have Mr. Rajesh Budraja for the next question.
Yes,
Yep,
sir.
Mr. Tilak, a couple of questions.
Yes.
Logistics, you're saying, is going to be a driving force.
Yes.
In this way, we've seen getting things faster to the right place was very critical. So by road, it was taking too long. We've had a couple of airports which were planned, smaller airports, which were planned and which were kind of on hold. If you have some insight into this, because for a while these airport projects were kind of kept on hold, but flights would be a far more quicker way of getting things across to people. So that is point one.
Shall we go point by point? Otherwise, I may miss on it. As far as this point is concerned, I can say something from experience, not from the policy side. Since 2010, that is the second stint of Dr. Manmohan Singh as our Prime Minister, we really have opened up as far as this opening of new airports are concerned. Because for last 10 years, from 2010 to 2020, virtually from 18 to 19 days in a month, I used to travel. And I used to visit our each and every state at least twice in 3 months. So quite extensive, complete nomadic guy. The basic problem, and then subsequently after 2014, it was converted into an Udana project. Basic problem was that Udan, as well as these things were concerned, was to consider more on the state capitals. Say if it is in Himachal Pradesh or if it is in Arunachal Pradesh, virtually those airports were not pliable, especially in case of Sikkim, that Panong was closed down because it was aviation-wise, it was not safe. But instead, another factor has emerged completely over there. I fully agree with you that airlifting would be much faster. But because of the topography as well as the environment over there, some of these airports were not viable. You would agree with me that out of those 12 which were closed down, the 6 have been getting reopened only for cargo, not for the flight passenger. But similarly, in parallel thereto, now the railroads, which were not considered a viable option or not used to that extent, is getting used to a great extent. You would recollect that Ayn Rand has described this particular portion in one of her novels. And if you see the Warren Buffett's latest annual general meeting of Berkshire Hathaway held on May 1, 2021, he has cited that including India, various Asian countries would do. And this Oxygen Express is becoming, and that would be the another feature. So besides opening of those things, probably the usage of railroads, because I will tell you, and it has getting reflected into it. It is getting noticed into. I think someone made a mention of DOT before, and laying down of a fibers or something. He would agree with me that one of the business which really gained in this particular 1 year was Container Corporation of India, IRCTC, Railtel. Because as the basic other movements were not happening, they extended the various way, and Container Corporation of India has enhanced its business volume more than 3 times in a single year. It was because of this. Probably that would get implemented once or the other. And then let us go to the next point.
Yeah, so the locomotive industry, the wagons, etc., would increase a lot.
Yes, batteries, signals, anything to do with that kind of a sectoral movement. And that's why the companies like Amar Raja Batteries and others have gone up.
Yeah. What about agriculture and agricultural implements?
Unfortunately, it is more a political industry in India rather than a commercial industry kind of a scenario. Very sad state of affairs, but that's what it is. On one hand, the agriculture production has gone up, but unfortunately for last 1 year or so, our country has been devastated by too many cyclones and natural calamities. Even yesterday, we had the same particular problem. Yes. And especially the states like Kerala, states like Orissa, states like Maharashtra, Karnataka, Goa, and they are really badly affected and continuously affected one after the other. Number one. Number two, as agriculture is either a state subject matter and those farm laws has become more a bone of contention, probably that is coming into the way. Yeah. Ramakrishnan sir, I will come back to you after for the healthcare industry. Till that, after I finished with the questions of Rajeshji, I'll certainly keep this in mind.
Yeah. Do we see an opportunity for export in certain segments?
101%. It would be more on a space research, medical transcription, financial services, as far as the service sector is concerned. As far as the manufacturing is concerned, it would be in the nature of vaccines, PPE kits, and pharma.
Because
I foresee that as far as this current oil impasse is concerned, there is every likelihood, because we are even otherwise having an agreement with many OPEC countries that we will not pay your entire petrol bill by way of $1. We have started giving it right from 2011 by way of drinking water, rice, and various other things. It may take some place in the nature of vaccines, PPE kit, and sanitizers. One of the country has accepted it. We do see the exposure.
Do you also expect that, since this work from home thing is going to come up, as against the commercial office property space,
yes,
housing sector can see a flip?
101%. 101%, but it would be a retail housing. It would not be the commercial properties. I will give you two classic examples. See, what has happened is that, especially in metro cities of our country, we were having a limited space as far as the personal homes were concerned. Because in a nuclear family, both the husband and wife used to go to the offices, and very rarely the elder family members used to be there. But now in this corona area, people feel that it is better to be at one place, then it becomes easy to take care of each other. Under such circumstances, the kids are having the online education, so they are occupying one room. The husband is connected to the office from another room, wife is connected to the third room, and the elderly citizens of the country in their own home are waiting in the hall like a OPD of a doctor. And sir, I'm not joking, sir.
Yeah.
In that case, it is positively affecting two things. From my personal experience, I will tell you. Very recently, I sold one of my flat because I'm shifting to another one. And when I completed that, from the same building, 4 youngsters approached me and they said, sir, uncle, have you really sold it? I said, why? What happened? He said, if not, 4 of us are ready to take it on rent because we are in the same building. We will occupy work from home from over here. So my home can be occupied by my seniors and my juniors. Number one. Number two, when I retired on 31st of May, my send-off was also online because it was at the peak of corona at that point of time. So my board, my Shailesh Haribhakti, the chairman, asked me in a lighter vein, Shekhar, would you like to continue? I said, yes, I would like to have an extension, but I would not handle a team of 250 people from home. It is really a Herculean task, given the network connectivity we used to have at that point of time. Then he said, okay, partially you start attending the office and partially you run business from Kamala Mills, where my office used to be there. I said, sir, NSDL has not paid me so much of a money or a salary by which I can afford. He said, Shekhar, I'm not joking. The rent rates at prime locations like Kamala Mills in Mumbai has gone down by 50 to 60% at that point of time. So your observation is quite right. It is a reality. So on one hand, some sort of a bigger or adjacent flats people are looking into. And surprisingly, they are looking at the rental basis rather than an ownership basis. But as this extension of the extensive and extension of work from home continues, because many companies like Tata and others have announced that till the time you and your reporting boss are comfortable, you can continue to work from home, whether it is corona or no corona. As this establishes, probably this trend would certainly get strengthened.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now I'll go to that healthcare question. See, as far as the healthcare industry is concerned, certainly those companies in healthcare also, although I didn't mention the healthcare industry, that point I covered in my deliberation. Certainly that would be a good case as far as the healthcare industry is concerned. But there are 2 points which need to be noted. Rightly or wrongly, healthcare industry has been painted in a negative view, especially the persons who have undergone a corona taruma. My entire family was found positive at one point of time. So the nexus by which these unnecessary CT scans, unnecessary pathological tests were thrust upon us, I was asked to undergo a 13 blood tests in one go. I asked them, why? Because few of them were related to liver functioning, few of them were related to kidney functioning. I said, whether my basic report was so bad that you have to do it extensively. So till the time this is controlled, one factor. Another positive factor is that now people have really become conscious of their health. Because now work from home, especially in our country, it has really turning out to be a bonded laborship. No work zones, no working hours. So people are getting mentally and physically exhausted. And because of that, and as the certain post-corona complication, pneumonia, heart attacks, because you would have seen in last 1 year, probably the number of deaths can be equally divided into corona effectives and corona patients. Other than corona also people are getting expired, and that has really made people aware. So healthcare industry would have a good future, but this particular negative element would have to be considered. But again over there, you will have to take care of your logistics.
Mr. Raman, I think he has got, Mr. Tilak, I think Mr. Raman has got a different perspective to ask. Mr. Raman, can you please unmute and ask?
Sure.
Unmute. Yeah, good evening, everyone. It's a very interesting conversation we've been having. I am essentially a lighting designer, but I have been interested in across the board because every place requires lighting.
Correct.
The airports, healthcare. My point was different. Post-corona, India has always been suffering because of preventive care, no preventive care, no primary care.
Yes.
Would the government be going to say district level, setting up hospitals to take care of that part of the story? Is a big business then. And other part is, like you rightly said, reputation has gone for a 6 for definite reasons. There's no question about it. It has become a target-oriented business than of service.
Exactly.
And this is the most unfortunate part. And you said about working from home. Unfortunately, I'm sure Rajesh would agree with me because we know each other. Lighting plays an important role in your health activity.
Yes.
If people understand this, unfortunately in India, the industry is not understood. It is a commodity product. You go to any healthcare facility, the lighting is appalling. Ki batti jalna chahiye bas. But batti ke bina hum jee nahi sakte. It helps in terms of obesity, Alzheimer's, everything, provided it is taught in that direction. I come to India very recently, and I'm sharing this because I've been a part of very, very high-end healthcare facilities, also clinics. Now, if clinics go to the interiors of India, which is heavily required and needs government sponsorship, would government be doing that? Because I'm sure you'll be privy to that kind of information. That's my question.
I was expecting this, to be honest, as far as your first portion is concerned, I fully agree with you. That is my observation as well. As far as government providing the Mediclinic setups at a district level or even below thereof, let us be very honest, such kinds of announcements are taking place as far as our annual budgets are concerned for many years. Unfortunately, that is not getting implemented in the right spirit and in the right speed. Point number one. Point number two, just like agriculture, health also comes into the concurrent list. So the equivalent role will have to be played by the state governments as well. But I feel I will not be a correct person to say because although you are saying I would be a privy, basically NSDL not being a government organization and especially in a health industry. But what we understand is that because that kind of a database or the data servicing may be done by NSDL, and at that point in time it was just explored. I'm not aware what has transpired so far to that detail. But I'm told that this kind of a mission has been already initiated, and they have taken some districts as their sample or say prototype of a project to start with. And they would be starting with Orissa and Karnataka. Let us wait for some time. Whenever we meet again, I will certainly keep you posted.
Thank you very much.
Your point is well taken. My pleasure, sir. Please don't call me sir. You are my senior in all respects.
Thank you very much, everyone. So any questions, any more questions? So I don't see any question in the chat box, and I don't see any raised hands. So if any questions, please let me know so that, so I don't see any questions. Let me just recheck the chat box if any.
No, it is not there. It is not there when I'm also checking it.
So great. So thank you, thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Tilak sir. So I request Mr. Atul Puri, who is the founder of eGrowth, to say a few words.
All right. So thank you, Mr. Tilak. It has been really, really awesome. The best part of it is this has been a combination of facts, which are numbers, legal aspects, common sense, which I think has been the biggest piece which you have really woven together. Thanks a lot, especially in this time when there are so many dynamics which are playing, both at the national, international, global level. At that point in time, trying to make sense of or trying to look at the direction which one should be taking, I think you've done an awesome job. Thanks a lot. All of us, let's put our hands together for making this evening worthwhile for all of us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So nice.
Thank you very much.
I would like to take a couple of minutes to share about eGrowth, the platform which has brought this conversation together. So eGrowth stands for exponential growth. The idea behind eGrowth was to cause exponential growth for small businesses. We were talking about the Reliances and the Tatas and the bigger people. They've got enough money, resources, clout to do whatsoever they want in whatsoever circumstances. Whereas as small business owners, we've got to fend for ourselves. I'm somebody who spent around 20 years in the corporate space. I'm talking about 5 years back. And that was the time I started looking at what is it that I could do to be a support structure for the small businesses. This is how eGrowth was conceived. In 2014, I used to be a corporate person, and that is when we started building it. Okay. Today, as we speak, we are a community of around 50,000 business owners from India and some other countries. This is since the solutions which work for the large businesses don't work for small businesses. Okay. I think the three words which make all the difference is collaboration, excellence, and opportunities. Right. Collaboration is all about bringing business owners together. So Tilak sir, you are a part of the collaborative network. By the what you picked up over so many decades, you brought it together and shared with all of us. If we were to pay in money, we can never afford to do that. If we were to pay it in any other fashion, we could not have been able to do that. It is only by the collaborative effort. Mr. Paul, he built the relationship with you and he invited you here. Why I'm talking about this is these are the kind of initiatives we have. Over the past 5 years, we have had 500 such meetings. We've been fortunate enough to speak to such stalwarts. Right now, also, if we look at the 22 people who are there on the screen, each one of you is a stalwart who can bring in a lot of value for the industry at large. My invitation to all of you is to join eGrowth. This is a movement. This is something what is going to define. So like Tilak sir was talking about logistics, joining hands, collaboration is the future.
Certainly.
So if you believe in that, please drop in a message. I'll be personally writing to all of you. One, we'll be sharing the recording of this video. It'll be available on our YouTube channel. You may please feel free to see it yourself and also share it with those people who were not able to come in. And we invite all of you to please join us in taking this far and wide. A small business owner can survive only if each one of us extends our hands. Yeah, Mr. Ramakrishnan, I'm just sharing it in the chat box, my email ID. If you got any questions, I'll be glad to answer 1 or 2 questions. And I've just shared my email ID.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. So Virendra, over to you.
So once again, thank you. And we have Mr. Anand Pol. He will be, giving the closing marks. Yeah, Mr. Anand.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for everybody to join this today's knowledge session delivered by Chandrashekhar Tilak ji. It was definitely eye-opening and looking into the opportunities which he has put forward to us for the future. Particularly, he was talking about the industry, he was talking about the defense industry, he was talking about the pharma,
Anandji, we cannot hear you. I'm sorry. Anandji, I think we lost it.
Some problem.
The time is over. Perhaps the time is over.
Yeah, probably. That Zoom time limit he might have. Okay.
No,
I just want to say thank you to each one of you for participating. Thank you. Special thanks to Chandrashekhar Tilak sir for
Please.
out such a for precious time and bringing this knowledge to us. And we wish that each one of you be a part of eGrowth. Give us an opportunity to interact, share knowledge, and create a new normal which is best for each one of us. So thank you very much.
And I want to thank all my friends who joined in today.
Really.
So anything you want to know more about this platform, in addition to Atul, you can reach me directly.
And I'd just like to add one thing. Everybody is Rajesh Budhraja's friend, okay? So don't think that.
We should really thank Mr. Tilak ji giving a very rosy picture in Corona days.
Yeah.
Very rosy picture and very
much encouraging.
He also said that there are a lot of opportunities in the Corona.
Yes.
And I think really it gives the boosting to all the people here. Thank you so much.
Officially, we should ask 3 tips for the day, for tomorrow maybe.
That would be another session for investments. Let me have a look at my own business potential.
No, in fact, Tilak ji, the important thing was, it was not a politician.
Sir, I think you are in Pune, if I'm not wrong.
No, I'm Dombivli. I'm in Mumbai.
Okay, fine. I'm from Pune, so we will be in touch.
Okay. Anytime, sir. Pleasure.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Be safe.
Good night.
Be happy.
Good night.